to never steer me wrong. So lead on, good shepherd, lead on.
Welcome everyone to the For His Namesake Podcast, where we talk about leadership skills for this generation that they can use not only in their school, church, and community, but most importantly, their entire Christian walk. Now today we have with us Hudson Baumgardner, student at Southeastern Free Will Baptist College. He's a freshman with me. He's in my class. Came from New Life in New Bern. And so I think me and him met 2-3 years ago at All Access Days. Mm-hmm. So we were in 10th grade. Mm-hmm. And it was like more of like a in passing, like, hey, who are you? You know, we're kind of weird 10th grader stuff. And then we finally reconnected this year at ULEAD this summer with Bromo, Marcos, so soon my youth pastor. A little weird, but anyways, you could agree. But had a good time, an hour at college together. So just to give you a little bit about you to the people watching, tell us a little bit about your testimony.
Yeah, so I'm from New Life, and that's a church in New Bern, North Carolina. I've been going there pretty much my whole life, but I got saved when I was younger. I was in second grade, and I did not fully understand what it meant. You know, everyone else was doing it. You know how it is. Everyone else was doing it, so I was like, why not? Let's just give it a try. You know, I don't know what this means at all. I'm just, I went to school there, so like everybody else was saying and all that kind of stuff. Just living life. You know, I knew there was a God, but I didn't know that like actually like, what he did for me until anything like that until, later in my life. I was at a Youth Aflame conference in Tennessee in Pigeon Forge. I don't remember exactly who was speaking. I think this was 2020 or 2019. I cannot remember. It's been a little bit, but God was speaking to me and that kind of stuff, and just it was just very overwhelming and that kind of thing, and but later that year at a Study and Retreat conference, my youth pastor Fuad Farhat, he was pushing me, to be more of a leader, and that kind of stuff. And it really started, hitting me like, and that kind of thing. And later, cause that whole year happened, and then Youth Aflame was about to happen again. And I was telling him, like, I feel like I'm being called to, preach and go into, the ministry and that kind of stuff. And that's why I'm at Southeastern today, is because of that decision I made. And I'm happy that I made that decision to follow Christ, and serve him, do what he wants me to do. And I don't know, that could be anything. That can be going to somewhere across country. It could be me staying, right where I'm at. Who knows? But yeah, that's my testimony.
Yeah, it's amazing how many lives Youth Aflame has changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I know Garrett's testimony was similar, and mine as well. It's powerful how God works through the youth conferences like that, and Snowed In and ULEAD and many others. But you mentioned a little bit about it. But what are some of the leadership opportunities you've got, maybe preaching or anything in that realm? So
with my youth pastor, he's very blunt. So he does not he's not push around or anything. He says if don't stop doing stuff until God makes you say no. So that's something that I kind of try to live by now, is, I'm going to keep pushing and pushing until, God once says, okay, no more, or just don't do that. So I'm just going to keep following him with that type of stuff. So he's giving me opportunities to preach in front of my youth group and lead type situations, at Youth Aflame conference this past year. I was able to, kind of help out with that. Just being a leader in the local youth group and that kind of thing, and it's really it's like humbling to do that kind of stuff, because like it's a lot of responsibility with children and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's honestly, I have a good time doing it. So
that's good.
Yeah.
And through all that, what's like one aspect or characteristic of leadership that really stands out to you?
You've got to be, you got to be humble, and you got to be kind to people when you're confronting them with stuff. That's something that you got to be when you're a leader, and you got to be willing to do the hard stuff, because if you aren't, you're not going to make it. That's something that you have to do.
Right.
You have to be willing to get out there and say, all right, guys, we got to get this mess done. We cannot be playing around no more. We got to get it done. Playing around's fun. I love playing around, but yeah, that's you got to be willing to get out there and understand that this is bigger than me.
Right.
I can't be fooling around too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you probably mentioned one of them earlier, but what's some leaders that you've looked up to over the years?
Definitely my dad. Me and him, we both have dyslexia and dysgraphia, and so that's a real big challenge with stuff. And I have like a progressive dyslexia, sort of, where it's gonna get it might get worse when I get older. Who knows? But me and my dad were very similar in like the way we think and stuff. So we that's what we bond over. And he's been a really big help and a really big supporter of my life. And Fuad, because he pushes me to go out of my comfort zone and be that leader for Christ. Really, all the pastoral staff at New Life has really just become really good friends, and they've really helped me become a better man today for Christ and that kind of stuff.
And that's good.
Yeah.
And same for my pastoral staff. They've done so much for me. Maybe some of them, they can be. They're human. They're human, like any of us.
Yes.
But they're still such a help for us, young people. So thankful that youth pastor is a position. So, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
But today's episode, we're talking about Christmas gifts, and this time of year, especially Christmas, we're having 3 Christmas episodes. This is our first, and Christmas is just special. I love Christmas. I like Christmas lights.
Beautiful.
I like hot chocolate. I like cookies. I like presents. I like Santa. I like Coca-Cola. I
love all that stuff.
Yeah, I love it all. And Christmas it's just a joyful time of the year, and it seems like everybody's
joyful.
Everybody's joyful.
Even the old people who are grumpy are joyful.
Yeah, all the old people are happy too.
Yeah.
And it's like, we go all year. We have Thanksgiving that everybody skips over because Christmas.
Yeah. Well.
But like every other holiday we have, or just good days in general, everybody's just still seems to be grumpy, and it's like it's only Christmas time that it seems like everybody's like, woohoo!
Yeah.
And like part of that I feel like is, oh, I'm getting a gift. December 25th, and we're talking about gifts for us. Like on my Christmas list, I really don't even have a Christmas list, to be honest.
I don't either. I stopped doing that a long time ago.
I used to have like a Christmas list with like everything I wanted on it, and like each thing was like around $100, like one of those like huge Lego sets.
Yeah.
And then, but like I stopped doing it, and then I just now I just text my mom like, "Can you order this for Christmas?"
Amazon wish list.
Wish list.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't even like. It's just whatever. And it's like at this point, like I'm not trying to like, oh yeah, look at me, but it's like I feel like I have everything.
Yeah, I don't need.
Like I really don't need it. Like if you think
Except
about
for, like,
it,
clothes.
Yeah, clothes would be nice.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm just thinking about like other people, like Operation Christmas Child.
Yeah.
Like me and a friend filled up those boxes this year. And it's just like, man, this kid's going to be so happy when they get this. Because it's like they don't have anything on that side of the world. And so it's like, I don't need anything.
Just a little thing brightens their day up so much.
Literally, like anything.
The smallest little thing can turn someone's day around.
And so I'm just blown away. But, talking about all that and Christmas gifts that we want to get, this time of year, of course, is Christmas, and the focus should be on Christ's birth. Now, we think about that, and we're like, okay, well, that's important. We have our little nativity scene set up, They talk about, him being born in a manger, the shepherds coming, the angels, Charlie Brown
the wise men coming too.
the wise men
Forgot
coming,
them, yeah.
and the wise men coming. I mean, they brought gifts
Yeah,
to
they
Christ, and they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
did. Yes.
And and we think about that, and it's like that's a physical gift, and because Christ was in human flesh, still 100% God, but now in the flesh as man, and so those were his gifts. But now, since Christ is now ascended back into heaven and he's not here physically anymore, we think about how do we give gifts to God now?
Yeah.
And it's like I can't give him a Lego set,
Yeah.
I'm like, here,
I mean, he gives us so much. What can we do, for him? Obviously, he wants us to get saved,
right?
and that's what he wants from us. But what else can we do as Christians,
Right.
For him?
And exactly, and it's like, this was talked about in chapel at school yesterday. It was in Micah, and I'll read it. It's chapter 6, verses 6 through 8, and it says, "With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with the thousands of rams, with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God." Now, I didn't think about this when we were talking about it earlier, but in the first few verses, that first verse, it talks about the author was referring to, what can I give God?
Yeah.
How do I please God with the gift? Like he mentioned things that were valuable back then, like burnt offerings. Do I give him a burnt offering with a calf? Do I give him rams? Do I give him, a river of oil? Things that are valuable, but
we don't have to anymore.
we don't have to,
No.
we don't have to do burnt offerings to God anymore. They ended in the Old Testament.
Because of what Christ has done.
What Christ has done for us.
Exactly.
And, we look at that, and so that's not a gift that God wants. And so the author's like, I could give him that, but I don't think that's what he wants.
No.
And so then we go to that last verse that highlights three things, what we're going to talk about. And it says, "But to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God." And so justice is the first thing. Now, justice is a big topic. I'm thinking about the Justice League right now. I just come to my mind.
The justice system.
The justice system.
Yeah,
like our government.
Yes.
That's wonderful. I can't talk about it too much and get silenced. But is there anything like justice anymore, which is part of what's talked about? It seems like evil seems to get away with everything.
Yeah.
The bad people always seem to get away with it, and the good guys always get the bad card.
Yeah.
It's feel like we as Christians always are, looked down upon, and that's just part of it, Like the world first hated Jesus, and it's now going to hate us because we're followers of him.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the journey. But at the same time, it's like other stuff outside of that. It's like, why does God allow this to happen, And it's like, brings up the question, like, why does God allow good or bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
And it's like, and even it's like times like these, like at Christmas. Like I know some kids, they've lost their parents around Christmas time. I've known parents that have lost their babies, some even on Christmas Day. And like, I can't even imagine, how that would feel. And it's like, how is this fair? And now I know you're going to testify this, but we think about it. And the guy who was talking about this said, if we could see all the conversations on campus or at your workplace or at your school, if we could see them all, would they all please God?
Be honest with you, no, they wouldn't.
Nope.
I can't say that because I know I'm lying.
Yeah.
They don't.
And it's like, are we pleasing God with that?
Yeah.
Because most of it's probably gossip or talking about things we shouldn't be talking about, or even looking at things we shouldn't be talking about or seeing. And it brings to the point of like choosing our words wisely. well, why are we saying what we're saying? Are we doing it to get a laugh out of somebody, out of an inappropriate joke?
Yeah.
Are we just trying to seek attention from somebody and make ourselves look good? Or are what we saying reflecting what God wants us to say and what God wants us to do? Are we pointing everything to Christ, or are we pointing to ourselves, And, one thing that highlighted was that sin is sin.
Yeah.
That, as Christians, we kind of label things, like this is really bad. Oh, that ain't that bad.
Yeah. Sin is straight up just sin. That's what it is.
Right.
That's what's always going to be.
Like we've all fallen short of the glory of God.
A little white lie is just as big as, killing somebody. It's
right.
in God's eyes.
Right.
Not in, the legal system in earth, but
yeah.
Yeah.
We'd all be in jail if we lied.
Yeah.
They need to build a lot more jails if that was the case.
Yeah.
And, we think about that, and it brings us, to this statement. All sin is level at the foot of the cross. Mm-hmm. Yes, I know Jesus died on a hill, but all sin is level at the foot of the cross. It's all the same.
Yeah.
And since the fall of man with Adam and Eve, we're all born sinful. Mm-hmm. And that foreshadows Christ coming.
Yeah, it does.
Because us sinning means without anything to save us, we're doomed. Mm-hmm. But God loving us enough to send his son to then die on a cross, but then to come for us and walk among us and teach us that we could grow closer to him. And, talking about mercy as well, like God's mercy is like endless.
Yeah.
And it's like
we don't deserve that.
No.
At all.
And it's like why? We're so wretched people.
Yeah.
And it's like we can never we can't even think about even getting close to what God is.
No, we could never.
It's not even.
He's perfect. You can't do anything.
Right.
He's perfect. He's more perfect than perfect. You can't touch that. We cannot touch that at all.
And it's not even comparable, because God is comparable to nothing.
Yeah.
And that mercy is beautiful. And it's talking also about we live in a harsh world, just a mean world. Talking about grumpy people.
Yeah.
We just live in a harsh world, and it's like people smile. Be happy.
We have something to be joyful about.
We have everything to be joyful about. It's like thanking God for waking up that morning is one thing. Thanking God for the blessings he's given you. Mm-hmm. Thanking God
for dying on the cross for us. That is something we need to, every morning before I wake up, that's something I thank God for. Because, that is,
right.
That's very important for us to remember every day. That happened for me. He died for me. What?
Yeah.
I'm not worth it.
Right. And sometimes we let the world dictate our attitude and mood, when instead it should be the goodness of God that's dictating our mood. You think about how good God's been to us. Mm-hmm. Over all the years, everything he's done for us. But we let some little instance or some little comment that's said to us affect our whole day, our whole week. Mm-hmm. And we're like, why are we letting this happen? Because God's bigger than that.
Yeah.
God's bigger than the people that are naysayers. God's bigger than the people that think you're trash or whatever you are. God's bigger than these people that want you to conform to what they want you to conform to. God's bigger than all that. Because at the end of the day, what God says is all that matters.
Yeah.
Not what anybody else says. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Not even what your pastor says. Because God is above your pastor.
Yes.
Anybody on this earth.
Your pastor is human. Do not take his... Fact check him, please. Everything he says, fact check him.
I love one pastor in their denomination. He tells his congregation to check me. Check behind me. Check me. I want to know if I'm wrong. Yeah. And I think that's very admirable, that even a lot with everything that we believe in Christianity, that we should study for ourselves.
Yes.
Not go off like some people do, some random website, but just studying it for ourselves to grow
Yeah.
closer to God. And that also that second part of being kind. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we go day to day and we just forget what kindness is.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, and patience. Patience. Had a problem with that on the way here. The lady in front of me was just, and then she put her hands up at me and I was like, I don't know what you're doing that for. I mean, hey.
Yeah.
But it's like being patient and being kind, no matter what those people have done to you,
Mm-hmm.
even though they seem like they're still getting away with it, going back to justice,
Mm-hmm.
even though it seems like we're not getting justice, we still should be kind to those people.
Yes.
Because even like earlier, we're still as sinful as they are.
Yeah.
Like, that's
We are.
why we say sin is sin, because it is. And just because maybe those people, maybe we're not getting justice,
Yeah.
well, we're probably doing some things that we shouldn't be doing, or sometimes even worse,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like,
Jesus died for them,
right,
just as He did for us. They're messed up too, just like us. We cannot forget about that.
right. And, you know, talk about, you know, I'll ask you this question. This might be a off-the-spot question, but it's talking about truth, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and how Jesus dealt with truth. And, you know, why is it so important to speak truth but still be kind when you do it?
People won't listen. People don't listen as well when you're harsh to them, when you're trying to tell them something, you know. Sometimes if you're going to correct somebody for something, you have to be kind in the way of putting it, because for me, it's hard to listen to somebody when they're just yelling at me, and, you know, I don't want to listen to someone when they're being mean to me personally. It's hard. But when someone's kind to me and they approach me in a certain way, then it's easier for, you know, people to talk to one another. That's something, you know, that I notice, and that's something that, you know, Jesus does.
Right.
That kind of thing. So yeah,
Right. You know, he always spoke out of love,
he did. Yes,
because the reason he did that was because he loved them,
he did. Yeah,
and he wanted to correct what they were doing so that they would turn to the one true living God, and not like the Pharisees, you know. Now, sometimes he was pretty stern with them.
yeah.
Sometimes he flipped tables.
The righteous whip.
Yeah, the righteous whip.
Yeah.
And sometimes he was stern.
Sometimes you have to be.
And sometimes, yes, there comes to a point where you have to be. But still in the midst of all that, there should be
as
love.
a leader, you have to be kind to people.
Right.
You have to show compassion and, you know,
And
have patience with people, because they're people just like you.
mhm,
Because I know one thing, I mess up, and I think the Lord teachers have patience for me, because I screw up all the time on stuff like papers and all that kind of fun stuff. You know about that? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome, Emperor Palpatine. And also, like, shouldn't be favorites in leadership.
Yeah.
That brings a dangerous game to leadership. About, like we say, you should love everybody the same. There shouldn't be special treatment to one group of people.
It's a hard thing to do.
and it's very hard to do,
because there's always people who are more, you know, you have favorite
there's
kids
always
in your youth group.
there's always a teacher's pet.
There's always teacher's pet. Yeah. Yeah.
Who's our teacher's pet in school?
I don't.
I really don't know if we have Jamie.
No, I would say
Nah.
no.
I don't know who's our teacher's pet. Probably me, if anything.
I'm not. I've never been a teacher's pet. I'm more of a teacher's friend. Like, I make them laugh.
I'm
It's a bad thing
jokester.
to do. You get in trouble.
But not picking, you know, like I said, everybody's sinful, and that, you know, you shouldn't call out someone else's sin when your sin
Yeah.
is the same or even greater.
Yeah.
Because it's all
You
sin.
gotta check yourself.
You got to check yourself. Look in the mirror.
Like the Matthew, what is it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I know what you're
the
talking about.
The eye thing.
Right, yeah. I can't
The
remember.
splinter in your
the
eye, and
splinter
the
in
beam
the-
in your eye. Yeah.
Right, yeah,
That
that's
one,
it.
yeah.
Be careful. That's what it boils down. You got to be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah.
You know, and there comes to a point where, you know, some things do need to be called out. But before you call out something, you need to go to them in private.
Yeah.
And then maybe if that doesn't work, bring somebody with you. And that doesn't work, then
Bring it
you need to
before the
bring it.
church.
You need to, or a
Or
group of
group
people.
people, yeah.
Right. Like, it needs to, you know, you just need to go
Keep
about
it
it
private
carefully.
first, and then you expose it if it's not being resolved.
Right.
Yeah.
But no matter what happens, you need to speak truth,
Yes.
because that's what matters at the end
That
of
is
the day.
what matters. Yes.
Truth is what matters. And No, that last part of being humble. You know, we talked about 2 weeks ago. We didn't have an episode last week about being humble, and the importance of being humble. Because in our world, you know, we define success as who has the most money and power and fame and followers on social media. That's another topic for another day. And that's how our world defines success.
Yeah.
But how Jesus defines success is humbleness.
Yes.
And servanthood.
Yes.
You know, making yourself lower than everybody. You know, we've talked about
that's what Christ did.
And that's what feet washing, you know.
Legit, yeah.
We've talked about that before on this, so I won't get too much into that. But the importance of being humble, because we think about it, as we said in the beginning, as soon as the fall of man happened, there was a need for a Savior. And through God's plan, He sent His Son, Jesus, in the form of a man, as a baby, in a manger. And we think, you know, in the Christmas story that, you know, Angel Gabriel appeared to Mary, his mother, said, "You're going to have a son named Jesus." And, you know, she was a virgin birth.
Prophecy fulfilled.
Prophecy's been fulfilled from the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And now we see 9 months later that Jesus is being born. And there's no room in the inn when they get there. And so the innkeeper says, well, there's a stable out back that you can stay in.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, like, I feel like we overlook it, but I wonder what the innkeeper thought during that. He probably just like, oh, it's
more people.
I mean, I'm making my money.
Well, in history, what was going on right now, the great census.
Right.
Because the emperor wanted to count how many people were in his empire.
Right.
So, like, he just said, okay, there's more people coming up. They're late or whatever. They're just going to get counted. I mean, he probably didn't care.
And it's like, you got to feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you just missed it, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, you know, Jesus is right in front of you right now.
Yeah.
And he's about to be born. And you partying it up, you just missed it. You missed it, buddy.
Yeah.
Opportunity of a lifetime, and you missed it. You're inside while Jesus is being born outside in a manger.
Well, he didn't know.
And he didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel bad, like he just didn't know. And you look at it, that humble beginning.
Yeah.
You know, because all
Very
the people,
humble.
the Jews and the Israelites thought like he's going to return on that horse, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the second coming of Christ. But this first coming was a humble beginnings.
The God of the universe was born in a manger, a feeding trough,
Right.
where animals eat.
Yeah.
Like,
Probably stunk.
it probably did stink. And it's probably nasty.
Very. The
And,
whole
like,
place was probably very
Not
nice.
sanitary, you know. Definitely not meant for anything like that. But, like, the God of the universe was born in there. That is being humbled. Like, that is him humbling himself completely to, like, the lowest, you know, the lowest of low, pretty much.
And
Like, it's crazy.
not only that, but the people that were there, the only people that were there that night, besides Mary and Joseph, and the sheep, and the cows, and the horses. Horsies.
Yeah, we're shepherds. Yeah, we're shepherds.
And the shepherds.
Yeah, shepherds.
They had the shepherds.
Yeah.
And at that time, that was the lowest job for them.
Yeah.
That was like the bottom of bottom jobs.
Yeah, like right above slave was the
Right.
shepherds. Yeah.
Right. And they were the people that showed because of the star and the angels that appeared to him. Born this day in the city of David, a Savior, which is Christ the Lord.
Yeah.
And this will be a sign unto you that you will find the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And it's like, wow. And they came and they saw the God of the universe in human form, the Son form.
Humble shepherds in a field, you know, like
they mind their own business, just a regular night with
tending to their flock, like not even doing their own thing.
Like-
Probably some of them probably have asleep or something, you know.
and like next thing you know, 10,000 angels show up.
Yeah.
Like, what? Buddy,
Like,
what?
it's scary.
it's scary, yeah. And just how humble that was.
Yeah.
And we can't even sometimes humble ourselves to pick up a piece of trash
Yeah.
in a bathroom.
Yeah.
Or clean up after somebody else didn't clean up after themselves. Or just do something simple, serving others. We can't even humble ourselves to do that. But the God of our universe was built in a feeding trough.
Yeah.
But you got to think about that.
As a leader, you got to be humble.
Mhm.
That's Very big.
It's one of the main characteristics. And there's so many, and we've talked about it before, what everybody thinks, but I won't get into it. But there's really 5 main characteristics of a Christian leader, which I'm not going to get into that right now. But anyways, but humble is really one of them. Mm-hmm. Humble, servant kind of go together. Yes. You've got to be. And, kind of in closing, that was our Christmas gift to God. Yeah. That is our Christmas gift to God. But really, our real Christmas gift to God is giving ourselves to Him.
Yeah. Full commitment.
Mm-hmm. Giving not 50%, not 99.9%, but 100% of our lives to God. Because that's all He asked.
That is all He asked for. Yeah.
Ourselves to Him.
Yeah.
And there's a quote in a book I read about Joe Namath, and I'll tell this little story and I'll close. Back in the 50s and 60s, the NFL was just getting started. But back then, it wasn't just NFL. It was divided into 2 separate leagues. It was the AFL, the American Football League, and the NFL, the National Football League. And so they were 2 separate leagues. So when people would come out of college, some of them, the good ones, would go to the NFL because that's where all the stars were. That's where Johnny Unitas of the Baltimore Colts played. That's where all the great people went. And then the AFL was kind of the underdog league. That's where all the kind of overlooked people went, and they always were underdogs. So the Super Bowl was invented in the 60s, and you had the first 2, and the National Football League won the first 2 against the AFL teams. So then the third year, you have Joe Namath drafted to the New York Jets, and the AFL was drafted. And he took a team all the way to the Super Bowl, ended up playing the best team, one of the best teams of all time, the Baltimore Colts, with Johnny Unitas, which was injured at the time. And they beat them. AFL won the Super Bowl. And I say all that to say this. He said in his book, if you're not going all the way, why go at all? Yeah. And that brings us to what we're talking about. If you're not going to give your whole self to Christ, then why do it at all? Mm-hmm. And I'll say this in closing. At this time of the year, we want all these gifts. Mm-hmm. And we keep saying to ourselves, we want more and more and more gifts, more and more and more of the world. But instead, we should be saying we want more and more and more of the Lord. Yeah. We want more and more and more of Jesus. We want more of Him and less of us. Because, it says in song. I'm not going to say it because I say it every time. If more of you means less of me, then take everything. Yes. And that's what it matters at the end of the day. That's our Christmas gift to God. Yes. Is to give ourselves as a sacrifice to Him. Living sacrifice. So, but I want to thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I enjoyed this. I had some good laughs. So, hopefully I can have you on sometime in the near future as well. Yeah. But I want to thank everybody for listening today. And I hope to see y'all next Friday as we talk about For God is with us, our Emmanuel. Thank you. See you then.
Good shepherd, I'll follow all my days. There ain't nothing sweeter than to watch you make a way. You walk me through the valley, but you never steer me wrong. So